Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. I already did a brief overview of this scenario in my Lost Caverns of Ixalan medley video. This one is going to highlight a few peculiarities of the interaction between spelunking and lands that would normally enter the battlefield tapped, but from a bit more of a technical perspective. Okay, so at a high level, Spelunking's ability says that lands enter the battlefield untapped, and that is a replacement effect. The way that these function is it looks out for any time that the event that it says, in this case, a land entering the battlefield under your control, would happen in the game, and immediately before that event happens, it modifies it to a different event. In this case, the land entering untapped. So let's take a quick look at a normal example. Amy plays a forest while she controls Spelunking, and the Spelunking sees that a land is about to enter the battlefield under Amy's control, so its replacement effect applies, and it's going to modify that event into the forest entering the battlefield untapped. Well, okay, maybe saying modifies is a little bit of a stretch, since the default is that that forest is going to be entering the battlefield untapped anyway. But that's what actually happens. And in fact, this simple toy example highlights a couple of really important points that we're going to need to keep in mind for later. The replacement effect looks for and applies anytime a land is entering the battlefield. It doesn't only work if a land is going to enter the battlefield tapped. It looks for any time a land would enter at all. And it can apply to an event even if applying its replacement effect doesn't actually change anything. Now let's take a look at another pretty simple example. We'll say that Amy plays a rampant growth for a forest while she controls Spelunking. In this case, the event starts out as putting the forest onto the battlefield tapped, and then the Spelunking sees that Amy is putting a land onto the battlefield and applies its replacement effect. So now the event is going to become for the land to enter the battlefield untapped. See, this time the replacement effect actually did something. We're making some progress. For the next level of difficulty, we'll say that Amy is making her land play for the turn, and she plays this Elfhame Palace. Now, I know this probably looks exactly the same as the previous example, but there is an important difference. Remember, the default is for a permanent to enter the battlefield untapped. The Elfhame Palace usually enters the battlefield tapped, but that's only because of its own replacement effect. But Spelunking has a replacement effect too. In a case like this, where two replacement effects both want to apply to the same event, the land's controller is going to decide which one to apply first. The normal choice would be to apply the Elfhame Palace's replacement effect first, so that the event would go from Elfhame Palace enters the battlefield to Elfhame Palace enters the battlefield tapped to Elfhame Palace enters the battlefield untapped. But there's no reason that she couldn't apply those in the other way. In that case, the final event would be for Elfhame Palace to enter the battlefield tapped. Why would she want to do that? Well, more on that a little bit later. In the rampant growth example, we didn't have a choice about whether to put the land into play tapped or untapped because in that case we weren't dealing with two replacement effects. Rampant growth, putting the land into the battlefield tapped, is not a replacement effect. That's just the default thing that rampant growth does. Since only one replacement effect was trying to modify the event, there isn't any choice. Well, hold on a minute. Am I trying to pull a fast one on you? I mean, after we apply one of these replacement effects, the other one should be applicable to that event, right? How come these two cards don't start some sort of infinite loop of causing the Elfhame Palace to want to enter tapped and then untapped and then tapped again? Well, the answer is this rule here, which says that any given replacement effect only gets one shot to apply to an event. If you really get down to it, you would need something like this to make it so that just Spelunking by itself doesn't generate some sort of infinite loop anytime you play a land. After all, like we said before, Spelunking applies anytime a land is entering the battlefield, not just anytime one enters the battlefield tapped. Since it only gets one chance to apply to any given land play, it won't apply over and over again, even though the modified event also matches its replacement condition. Another consequence of this is that two Spelunkings won't stack. That is, if you play a land like Elfhame Palace while you control two Spelunkings, you won't get to have it enter the battlefield untapped and then get to tap it for mana and then have the second Spelunking have it untap again. This sort of trick works with Amulet of Vigor because unlike Spelunking, Amulet has a triggered ability, which uses the stack. Elfhame Palace entering the battlefield tapped will cause all of your amulets to trigger, and these will all go on the stack, meaning that you can respond to each one individually by tapping the land for mana. With Spelunking, playing a land will indeed cause all of your Spelunkings to want to have that event turn into the land entering the battlefield untapped. But the land is still only entering the battlefield one time. It won't be possible to tap the land for mana in between all of the different applications because all of them are acting on the event of that land entering the battlefield. Now, if you have a pretty advanced knowledge of the rules, there's one more thing that you might be wondering about. See, when I said that the affected player gets to choose what order the replacement effects apply in case there are multiple events that want to affect the same event, then that was true, but there's a little bit of an asterisk there. As it happens, not all replacement effects are created equal. There's actually a hierarchy for what order that they can be applied, and at the very top of this hierarchy is self-replacement effects, which always must be applied first. Now, if you think about the normal English meaning of self-replacement effect, and then you take a look at Elfhame Palace, well, you might be starting to sweat a little bit right now. If that's a self-replacement effect, then there's no choice in it, and you're forced to have Elfhame Palace enter the battlefield untapped. Oh no! Fortunately, there's a way out, although it is kind of a little bit of a cop-out. As you can see here, a self-replacement effect is defined as an effect of a resolving spell or ability that replaces part of its own effects. Because lands are not included in this definition, it's not possible for this land enters the battlefield tapped to be a self-replacement effect on a land. So you always have this option. I talked a little bit about this same sort of question in regards to the completed ability some time ago, and I'd recommend that you check that video out if you'd like a deeper look at how self-replacement effects work. Now that we have all of those details in place, how about a couple of challenge questions to test your understanding? First up, let's say that you're playing a Shockland with a Spelunking Owl. What would your options be? Well, this question is exactly like the same one where we had an Elfhame Palace, so we could have it enter the battlefield tapped or untapped based on whether we apply the Spelunking first or last. We also have a second choice to make in whether we want to pay 2 life. Sadly, there's no possibility to pay 2 life and also have it enter the battlefield tapped, but all the other permutations are on the table. I'll leave it up to the fine folks in the comments to enumerate all the possibilities one by one. Next up, let's say that we're kicking a Hunting Wilds with a Spelunking out. Could you tap the forests for mana and end up with them untapped? So for this one, let's observe that Hunting Wilds has 2 steps in its resolution. First, it puts the forests into play, tapped, then it untaps them. Accordingly, the first step of that resolution will proceed exactly like the Rampant Growth example. Because the base instruction is to have the land enter the battlefield tapped, we have no choice but to do that. Then apply Spelunking, which will mean that the forest will enter the battlefield untapped. After that, Hunting Wilds will untap them, which won't do anything visible, but at least we tried. It is not possible to tap them for mana before this happens, because you do not have a chance to activate mana abilities in the middle of a spell's resolution unless something is asking you for a mana payment. Since that's not the case here, the forest will not be able to double dip. Okay, one more. Let's say that with that Hunting Wilds, you didn't want to just get any old forest. You wanted to get a very special forest that enters the battlefield tapped sometimes, like this Temple Garden here. Would that change anything? Why, yes, it would. In this case, the event will start out as having the Temple Garden enter the battlefield tapped, except now there are not 1 but 2 replacement effects that can modify that. Amy can apply these in whatever order she wants, so just like in the example earlier where we were just playing the Shockland from our hand, she actually does have a choice in whether the final event ends up being where it enters the battlefield tapped or untapped. Pretty trippy, right? Whew. That was a lot of material. Give yourselves a big pat on the back if you were able to follow that all the way through to the end. Hopefully with this, you'll have the confidence to rule on any situation that might involve this card. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.